Welcome to another glorious episode of the Put On Waivers podcast. I'm your host, Dwayne Douglas, podcasting off the beautiful shores of the Pacific Ocean. Beautiful day out here in Southern California. I am rocking the USC Trojan sweatshirt because the Pac-12, they can't lose in the tournament. This is the Pac-12's NCAA tournament right now. They are killing it right now. I tell you, I don't think they lost the game out there in this bubble version of the NCAA tournament. My partner is Ryan Holmes, the pride of Pepperdine out here, talking the NFL, Put On Waivers NFL show. Ryan, how you doing today?
I'm doing good. I'm also broadcasting from the beautiful shores of Malibu.
Oh, there you go. Malibu is a beautiful place. Let's see here. So our RTPOW podcast is my Twitter handle, and then Ryan, what's yours?
It's at rholm22, so it's RHOLM, the number 22.
Catch us on Twitter. We're posting stuff on Instagram, as well, IGTV, Facebook, and YouTube. Thank you for all those folks who are joining us on those platforms, and then the folks listening to us in Vegas, watching us in Cleveland, Ohio, Hartford, Connecticut, San Jose, California, View Park, Scotland. I got peoples out there, I guess, and then Compton, California, are listening to the Put On Waivers podcast. So thank you for that. Before we go jump into free agency, Ryan, I thought what happened in Washington was supposed to happen the other way, that the minority owners were going to buy out Dan Snyder, but the old boy network kind of took care of itself again, right? They gave him the money for the buyout of I think it's called the debt buyout thing, whatever, where he bought out all the minority owners, so he has more power in Washington. Even with all the stuff going on with the Washington football team, that's kind of interesting that the NFL kind of did that.
Yeah, it's 900 million, 950 million, something like that.
That's it.
He's forking over. I think they valued the team at 2.4 billion, and I think it was 40%, something like that is what the number came in. So he's out about $1 billion to buy out the minority owners. I don't know why he did that. There must be something going on where he needed more control of the team to do something, whether that's build a new stadium or move the team or do something in the area. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. I don't know why. He was already the majority owner. I don't know why he needed those stocks.
Yeah, I mean, as long as you're the majority owner, you're in control.
Yeah. So he was already in control of the team. So
yeah, I'm not sure about that part of it. I was thinking about with Mark Davis and like the thing about the Raiders being, obviously he's the owner of the team by his father and everything like that. I just saw that LeBron James took a huge stake in the Red Sox, correct? Took a lot of money.
It was Boston, yeah.
It's Boston, yeah. So like, would somebody come in and just, if he wanted to, could somebody come in and be like a minority holder of the Raiders and influx with some cash if they needed cash to do certain things, or is he just waiting for Vegas to kind of get going as far as fans and attendance and all that stuff like that?
It's interesting because I don't think we know what the majority stake Mark Davis does hold, whether that's 51%, 60%, 70%. He's got to have 51% to be the majority. Mm-hmm. So if he's somewhere in the 51, 55%, he can't really sell off much of the team to get a cash influx. He can ask, obviously, the minority owners to chip in some money, but I think at this point, he's just waiting for those revenue streams to open up with tickets and parking and concessions and naming rights and sponsorships. All the money that he thought he was going to have last year, I think it's going to kick in 2022 when we go into free agency, that we're going to have a lot more money to spend in Vegas.
Yeah. To that point, Tashawn Reed and some other people on their podcast were talking about how the Raiders are kind of kicking to the curb this season for the following season, where they're going to have a lot more money. Do you believe that to be true, or do you? I mean, because like this is like how many years could they possibly not win games?
I think it's more you've seen the majority of the contracts the Raiders have handed out are 1-year deals. So there's not huge signing bonuses involved.
Everybody else has done the same thing too.
Everyone except for New England.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So I think it's just kind of everything's coming together as far as the players want 1-year deals because the cap's going up. The teams want 1-year deals because they don't have the cash. Because if you let's say you give out a $20 million signing bonus, that money has to go into escrow now, as soon as they sign the contract. So you got to have $20 million on hand to hand over to one of these guys, let alone trying to do it with 3 or 4 different free agents, some high profile guys. So I think at the end of the day, everything's going to work out. Next year, the Raiders should be big players in free agency. They only have, I think, 25-ish players under contract for next year. Like half the team's going to be free agents. So they're going to be able to do whatever they want, it's interesting though. That'll be year 5 in this rebuild. And who are the players on this team that are building blocks after this year? Hopefully it's still Derek Carr. Hopefully it's Josh Jacobs. Yeah. You might only have 3 or 4 guys, Darren Waller. Yeah. And that's the concerning part. They had all these assets, all these first round picks, and 5 years later, you're looking at maybe 4 or 5 cornerstone players.
Yeah, which is not good. I posted a article on Bleacher Report had on McVay and Goff and their relationship. That was, I'm not sure if you guys got to read that, but it's pretty much well known that it's been interesting.
I didn't see it, but I've heard about it.
You heard about it. So those two are, it's a divorce now. He got his guy Stafford in, so it's all good to go. Before the podcast, I was listening to an interview with a couple lawyers talking about the Deshaun Watson thing. Everything has to be on hold now, right? I mean, I'm not going to get into every single allegation, but there's no way he can kind of stop his foot and say, trade me, right?
I don't think a team can trade for him at this point until they find out what the league's going to do and how serious these allegations are. Because if he gets convicted, even if let's say there's a settlement out of court for millions of dollars, the league is still going to step in and investigate what happened. So you might be giving up 3 or 4 first-round picks for a guy who's going to get suspended for 6 games, 8 games, 10 games. We don't know. So I don't think a team's going to give up those kind of assets without certainty in how many games you're going to get out of them.
Yeah. I follow Cody Benjamin on CBS Sports. He had the 5 best and the 5 worst free agency moves, and our team, the Raiders, aren't in it, so that's not too bad. So as far as the worst goes, let's go over some of these. Jacksonville Jaguars, they're at 5-4. Rashawn Jenkins and Shaquille Griffin.
Yeah, the Jenkins one is kind of head scratching at this point. They jumped in early in free agency. The safety market has come to a screeching halt. There's still options out there on 1-year deals where you can get good players for $2, $3, $4 million. And they gave 4 years, like $35 million, something like that. Yeah. And Jenkins is a good player. He's not a difference maker. And you're giving him some pretty serious coin where you could have got an equal player for much less.
Yeah, and my Niner brethren texted me immediately and said Trent Baalke's up to his old tricks, but I was like, hey, that's all I think Trent Baalke is doing his Mike Mayock. So everything goes through the head coach over there. No question about that. Adoree Jackson with the Giants. We know Adoree Jackson very well, but that's interesting.
Who are they competing with for his services to give him a 3-year, $39 million deal? And it's really a 2-year. It comes out to like $27, $28 million in guaranteed money for a guy who he's a great athlete, but there's not a lot of production in terms of interceptions and turnovers and even pass breakups. So that one's mind-boggling as well.
Better athlete than actual corner.
He's a tremendous athlete.
There's no question about that. Trey Hendrickson, and so like you have Lawson, like I'm not sure how, I don't have the salaries right next to me, but like why not work on a deal to keep an internal guy with your team, franchise him for this year, and then you get Trey Hendrickson, who is do we trust that he's going to be that every down big time sack guy? Do you like him that much?
I don't. He had production this year, but I'm pretty sure he was an undrafted player coming out of college, and he's playing across from Cam Jordan, and he's got Rankins on the inside, and they blitz quite a bit. So he got a lot of one-on-one matchups. They could have kept Lawson on a franchise tag for around $15 million, and it turns out they ended up giving Hendrickson. It turns out to a 1-year $20 million contract. So they can get out of it after this year, but they gave $5 million more to a guy that's not as good of a player as the guy they could have kept, that they know more about, that was already in-house.
Ryan Pace, I mean, it's kind of weird that he kind of outwardly said, you know, hey, we really tried to get Russell Wilson. It leaked that stuff to the media, and then but they didn't end up getting him. I know people in Vegas wanted to try. Like, I guess there was rumors about trying to trade Mariota there, but they ended up with Andy Dalton as their quarterback now. I mean, that's really, that's just a mess, right? I mean, the Bears have a decent roster, but and who knows what if the wide receiver is going to stay either, because he doesn't want to. I think he signed his franchise tag, but he doesn't want to stay in Chicago. He wants to move on.
I wouldn't want to play with Andy Dalton either, but they tried to go all in on Kenny Galladay when they had Allen Robinson, who's a better player, already there, and they could have signed him long term. I mean, for me, I don't hate Andy Dalton. I think I would rather have Mitch Trubisky at $2.5 million, is what he went to Buffalo for, than $10 million for Andy Dalton.
Yeah.
So that one doesn't make any sense to me. And then they end up having to cut Kyle Fuller, who's their best corner, and to bring in Andy Dalton at $10 million, when you could have saved $7.5 million and just gone with Trubisky again. I don't know if Trubisky goes back for 1.5, but he goes back for less than 10, clearly, because there was no market for him.
Exactly. Did you see the timestamp on the time that Fuller left the Bears to when he signed? It was like 25 minutes later.
Yeah, 20 minutes later. That one was easy.
That was pretty good dogs on that one.
And Denver's having a really good offseason, which is might be a question for the Raiders moving forward. They've made some really good moves.
And we'll talk about that in 1 second, because I have the number one on my list right here to talk about. Shaquille Barrett, on the best side of it, Shaquille Barrett was a no-brainer. I mean, the guy's ridiculously productive. Joe Tooney goes to the Chiefs. Galladay, you know, he stood his ground. He wanted to get a big deal, and he wasn't going to sign a 1-year deal. The Giants are ending up paying him now. They want to get weapons around Daniel Jones. What do you think about Galladay?
I like Galladay. I don't like him for what they gave him, $18 million a year. And again, who are they competing with? When there's plenty of guys you could have got on a 1-year deal, I'd much rather have – I'm not a huge Juju Smith-Schuster guy, but I'd much rather have him for $8 million.
Yeah.
76 or 72 million for Galloway. And it turns out that's going to be like a 3-year deal where most of that money's guaranteed.
Yeah. John, go ahead.
The Giants have made several head-scratching signings as far as length and the amount of money committed.
Yeah. I mean, besides Leonard Williams, I can't say. I mean, did we like any of them besides that one? I mean, I don't. I mean, especially Adoree Jackson is just not. I mean, I just don't. Like, I just like again, like, you know, you have to. There's sometimes you gotta let people walk away.
I like the players. I don't like what they gave them.
Yeah, and that could lead to trouble down the road. Corey Davis to the Jets.
I like that one. They got him for, I think, 3 years, $37 million. That's fine. You know, $11-12 million a year. Good player. Had a breakout season last year, and they need weapons. And Sam Darnold needs weapons, and that could free them up to go tackle in the first round if they want to go with Penei Sewell to pair long term with Becton. Mm-hmm. I could even see them going Kyle Pitts and just shocking the world at number 2 and saying, we're going to take the matchup nightmare tight end. We have Corey Davis outside, and it gives them more possibilities. I like Corey Davis as a player.
Yeah, me too. I like his, like, I kind of hope Brian Edwards kind of takes that same path, that he did. Different players though. John Johnson, I think that what John Johnson did, going from the Rams to the Browns, is more of a indictment of where the Browns are going in my mind, because the Browns look like they look like a button-up organization, GM, head coach. They coming off a playoff year where they really, they should have beat the Chiefs. They should have been in the Final Four. They really should have won that game. And now they get a guy who could play free safety and just make plays happen.
Yeah, they needed a safety. I'm pretty sure they're running out Anderson. Not Anderson. What's the guy for the name? Zendejo was running out there. He's terrible. And they had Carl Joseph, and we know who Carl Joseph is. Good player, not great in coverage. He is a mismatch if you have to match him up in man coverage. But to be able to get John Johnson, I was surprised at the number. I thought it'd be higher. He signed right out of the gate day one, and it was think 3 years, $33 million. I thought he was going to get a little bit more than that, but he
I
must
think
have
he
loved
could
something
have
about
got.
Cleveland.
I think he could have got something more, right?
Yeah, so he must have really wanted to go to Cleveland, would be my guess.
Yeah, which is interesting, which is not something we haven't been able to say in the past. So let's go to Denver real quick and talk about the Broncos here. And I think what the Broncos are doing is, what teams should do when they don't have a big time quarterback, and that's, what, the quarterback is important. We know it. I don't think Drew Lock is the answer. I don't think you believe that Drew Lock is the answer, but if you put a team around him that's really good, maybe he doesn't have to do a whole lot. There's a lot of Super Bowl quarterbacks, Super Bowl losing quarterbacks, Super Bowl winning quarterbacks, who are not great players. Brad Johnson is not a great player. Mark Rippon is not a great player. Nick Foles is not a great player. So they're trying to. Trent Dilfer's not a great player. That's okay. Yeah, that's Trent Dilfer's definitely not a great player. Talks like one on TV though. But as far as that goes, I think that what they've done, I was surprised that they brought back Von Miller. But they look like they're trying to rebuild that no-fly zone. I don't love Fangio in that role. I think that if he was the DC instead of the head coach, maybe I like it more. But what are your thoughts about getting Darby and getting Fuller and all these other teams, all the other aspects of what the Broncos have done?
Yeah, so for right now, they're in my top 3 for free agency period. I put them, San Francisco, and probably Tampa Bay just because they're able to get everyone back. But being able to get Justin Simmons locked up long-term after the second franchise tag, bringing back Miller, Kyle Fuller was a Pro Bowl corner, bringing Shelby Harris back as an interior rusher between Chubb and obviously
always a Raider.
Miller, yeah. And then, they still have Damon Jones from Ohio State's going to be entering his 3rd year as an inside rusher. Ronald Darby had a good year the last 2 seasons. So they're throwing him in at corner as well. They still have the slot corner. I think Callahan is still there. He might be a free agent, but he's a good player. If that frees them up in the first round at number 9 to go whatever they want to do, I could easily see Micah Parsons ending up on this team as well from Penn State as an inside linebacker. And they have weapons on offense. We've talked about it before. They don't really need much out of the quarterback other than don't turn the ball over. And that defense is going to be.
And Jerry Jeudy to catch the football.
Yeah.
Noah Fant is a talented player. They have talent.
Portland Sutton is
how is
back.
The question I have for you about the Broncos is, I think the thing that I always felt, like at least the last couple of years with the Raiders playing the Broncos, as you and I are both Raider fans, is I always felt like they didn't have they didn't have the offensive line. Did they improve that at all? At all? Because I don't know if they have the offensive line to really get to stop Ndakwe, to stop Bosa, to stop Chris Jones, people like that when they're playing on Sundays.
Yeah, their line is a weakness. You could also see them at number 9 going with the best offensive tackle. Slater might be there. Garrett Bowles actually had a decent season. He was terrible his first 3 years, but he actually turned in a pretty good year last year. They had some injuries along the offensive line. They played 3 or 4 different right tackles. The interior, they're okay. They're not great, but if they could shore up the offensive line, like you mentioned, with 1 or 2 more players, whether in the draft, I still think the weapons are there with Hamler outside, Sutton, Jeudy, Fant, Big O, we'll call him. I don't know his name. The guy from Missouri, the tight end they drafted last year, Albert something. And they still got, they lost Philip Lindsay. That was a very surprising move. They just basically withdrew the tender and let him walk. And then he immediately went to Houston. But they still have Royce Freeman back there. They can still run the football when they need to. So
yeah,
Denver is not going to be – you can't put 2 wins in the column for the Raiders or the Chargers or even the Chiefs at this point. And they could still go out and get a quarterback. There's nothing stopping them from making a trade. What if they got in on the Watson deal now, if Watson gets cleared? Or what if they just draft a quarterback at 9 and say, Drew Lock, we're sorry. Yeah. So they have a lot of ways to go.
I just, as far as like this year, I think as far as Watson goes, even if this wasn't going on, the whole whatever, massage thing was going on, I think that they're just going to hold on. They're not going to trade him this year. I just think they're just not going to trade him this year. And I think I don't know. The Niners, Go ahead.
I would also add, I believe Denver re-signed Kareem Jackson as well.
Yes, they just did yesterday. Yeah.
So that's going to be a very good secondary, and they have 2 elite pass rushers.
Yeah, interesting. How banged up were they last year? I mean, were they decimated on defense last year?
Well, Von Miller didn't play basically the whole season. Bradley Chubb got hurt.
But was the secondary in together?
The starting safeties were there. The corners were kind of just iffy. They didn't have guys on the outside that could cover anyone. That's why they went out and got Darby and Fuller.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. That's all. Yeah. So the Broncos are always looking to improve. That's why when you don't make the playoffs, the pieces around the teams around you have an off season to get better. Nobody's gonna stay still in the National Football League. I thought the Niners did. I think Samson Ekubon really. Him on the other. If both can come back healthy. Him on the other side, rushing the passer. I think the thing that I do like about what the Niners do is the head coach trusts his ability to score points, and he just keeps and they really just keep throwing money, a lot of money at the defense all the time to try to build up that defense because they know in that division they need to be able to stop people, and they've been able to do a pretty good job of it.
Yeah, he trusts the scheme that it doesn't matter who he has on offense, that he's going to be able to run the football, and they're going to be able to bootleg off of that. And they have Ayuk outside with Deebo Samuel, so they have guys that are explosive in short areas to get them yards. I like the guys. They basically just brought back their guys. I like the fact that Juszczyk is back. They brought Verrett back. Trent Williams is huge. Alex Mack's going to be a great addition at center. I wanted the Raiders to go after K'Wan Williams. He's a very good slot corner. The 49ers re-signed him this morning. So a lot of what they're doing is bringing back guys they had last year, but they're all guys they need. They're all good players.
Yeah, no question about it. The Bucks just did what you said. They just brought everybody back. And then they're going to be, it's going to take a slew of injuries to keep that team out of the Final Four in the NFC, right?
They're very deep. And they just re-signed Donovan Smith today to a 2-year deal, the left tackle. They extended him, but they got Sue back, which was everyone thought he was going to be gone. They got Barrett back. Obviously, they got him done. They got Levante David done. Gronkowski will probably be back. I don't know. Have they re-signed him yet? I don't know off the top of my head. I want to say yes.
Who, Gronk?
Gronk, yeah.
Yeah, he's
back.
1 year.
So Antonio Brown's like the only guy on that team that isn't back, and Fournette, but they don't really need Fournette. They can replace the running back, but they're going to be very tough. That's going to be a good team next year.
Yeah, thank God they're not on the schedule. As far as the Raiders trade Rodney Hudson. So before I go any further, what for you? You have that analytical mind like me. So like when you watch Rodney Hudson last year, what was your take on how we played in 2020?
I thought there was a decline in his ability to run block. He didn't sustain his blocks very well. There wasn't a lot of double teams inside where he was able to get to the second level. I don't know if that had to do with, different guards playing. Simpson, good. Incognito gets hurt. But there was definitely a drop-off there in the interior as far as run blocking. Now, as a pass blocker, he still had a very good season. Like he doesn't give up sacks, a couple of pressures a season. Being able to recognize the fronts and work with Derek to get the protections right was a strength that he had. They always seem to pick up blitzes wherever they came from. So losing that side of it's going to probably hurt the most. It's just when you're plugging in a rookie, or not a rookie, but Andre James has only played one game in 2 years, and he's new to center. He was a tackle in college. So a lot more is going to be on Derek's shoulders, I think, helping him understand what the fronts are, where the blitzes are coming from, and trying to pick that stuff up. And then obviously teams are going to stun on him early to try to see if he can pick up some stunts.
They're going to test him out. Test him out, no question about it. And do you feel like if it does – so here's my problem with the Andre James thing. Like just because – he obviously wanted to go out. Rodney Hudson wanted to leave, it sounds like. And to me, I was – basically he wanted to go to Arizona. I personally would have said – if I was him, I would have said, hey, listen – yeah, I've been in the playoffs in a long time. The Packers just lost their center. Why not? That's more of a guaranteed playoff spot than Arizona in my mind, because I know Arizona looks good on paper. They look good on Madden next year. They're going to be probably the number one team used in Madden next year. But do you trust the head coach? Is Kyler Murray really the guy we think he is? Fantasy football owners will swear, it's not fantasy football, it's real football. What are your thoughts about like him going to Arizona? And I mean, obviously they're going to pass the ball a lot, so
Yeah.
he'll fit right in. But I mean, do they? At some point, you got to run the football. Does he help him there?
I don't think he wanted to go to Arizona. He wanted to be released, and the Raiders ended up trading him to Arizona.
Yeah.
Because he's come out and said he's surprised that he's in Arizona. But the fact the Raiders got a 3rd-round pick for him after someone leaked it, I'm assuming his agent leaked that he was going to be released. I don't think that came from the Raiders side.
Not coming from the Raiders.
He fits there. I mean, they're going to throw the ball 60, 70% of the time, so they need a guy that can pass block and give Murray some time back there. It will be an issue in the running game. When they want to line up and run the ball against the Rams on the interior, the Seahawks, the 49ers, he's going to be challenged against some of those guys in the run game with the interior players in the NFC West, the Aaron Donalds of the world. But for him, it's good. He's got a chance to go to the playoffs. That's a tough division. They could end up 6-10 or 10-6. They need to stay healthy, and Kyler Murray needs to take that next step. I don't know how good the Cardinals are on defense, having lost to Son Reddick, who gave him 12.5 sacks.
Why not just keep Reddick? Why not just keep Reddick and get and not? I mean, is Reddick at least going to play? Is more likely to play 16 games than JJ Watt? Like they seem like they. I remember when they got Emmitt Smith and people like that. It seems like Arizona is like, okay, old players go to retire with the Cardinals. Like I just seems like that kind of a shaky move that they would go out and get a guy like JJ Watt.
Yeah, and what they paid Watt? They paid him. $32 million over 2 years, and the edge guys are signing for way less than that. They could have kept Reddick for half of that on a 1-year deal. He signed for basically $8 million in Carolina. So
that's crazy. Crazy as far as that goes.
It's interesting. I wouldn't pencil them in as this is a surefire playoff team at this point. They're a contender for sure, but they could very easily finish last in that division as well.
I would say for folks out there, we got time. It's only March as far as football goes. Go ahead and watch Go ahead and watch Kyler Murray a little bit before we put him in the Hall of Fame. I'm just saying. Get that guy.
I actually saw Kyler Murray's first high school football game of his senior year.
That must have been fun.
I played out in Denton, Texas. I was like, I'm going to go see who this guy is because I was in Texas at the time. He's pretty good.
Yeah, listen, the throws are there. I don't know. My biggest thing with him is like, can he handle the NFL and getting hit? The small guys are really. He's a smaller dude. There's no question about it. But that's just a lot of, Russell Wilson seems to be able to, kind of survive that. And maybe some of his, maybe some of the reasons why they haven't made deep playoff runs is because he's getting hit so much. But I don't know.
I think the thing that he needs to do, and he's great at scrambling around and playing backyard football. It's in the playoffs against good defenses and smart defenses. If it's 3rd and 7, 3rd and 10, and they keep him in the pocket, does he have the decision-making ability to throw the ball down the field instead of just throwing screens and check downs and running all this, basically run and shoot type of offense that they're running out there? The air raid in the NFL. Yeah. Can he do it on 3rd and long against good defenses where he can't scramble out of the pocket and just run for a first down?
With the weapons he has, his pass per attempt is not where you think it is. If you look at
really low.
It's really, really low as far as that goes. The Redskins, I thought that would be a good spot for Mariota. I thought it would be. I keep saying sorry, watching football team. I thought it'd be a good spot for him, but not. They went and chose with Fitzmagic instead. Where do they pick? I mean, do they have an opportunity to maybe get a quarterback in the draft? I mean, or actually they got. I mean, they also have the kid, the backup who played the playoff game, so we can see Heineke, see if he can play. But I mean, they are one of these few teams that are basically, especially with the addition of Samuel, are a quarterback away from being a really good team.
Yeah, they picked 19th, so
no, probably
is one. I don't think any of those top 5 guys has fallen to 19th, so they would have to trade up. They're in a spot where if they can get their hands on the right rookie quarterback and have him under control for 5 years and then put all that money in the defense, well, they already have an elite defensive line, but if they can re-sign, Payne and those guys on the interior, Jonathan Allen, you still have Chase Young, Montez Sweat. They're going to be good. But I don't know if Fitzmagic moves the needle for me going to Washington, because he's going to have games where he's going to look good, and then he's going to have games where he's throwing interceptions in the fourth quarter and losing games for him. They need more of a game manager type, I think, than a gunslinger, because, like you said, he might lose more games for him than he wins. Mariota's contract was untradeable. If you traded him, there was escalators that kicked in where you're basically paying him $20 million for 1 year. That was the problem with that contract. But it's good the Raiders got him back for $3.5 million. He saved him $7 million.
So they didn't even. So the idea wasn't the idea of this was to do like maybe, kind of have him and then trade him and give the team an opportunity where they could have gotten some capital and after rebuilding him, and they signed to a contract that was untradeable.
I think what the plan really was to bring him in to push Derek. Obviously, that never happened because he was injured. And the plan was, if he did become the starter, let's say he played 7 or 8 games, that you had him under contract for his second season, just in case you hit lightning in a bottle. I don't think the plan was ever to rebuild him and just trade him. I think Derek outplayed him last year. Marcus was obviously hurt. And then I think the Raiders were just safeguarding themselves in case he did become the starter and he played 7 or 8 games, that they had control of him next year where they wouldn't have to franchise him but let him test the market.
Interesting. Always crazy things going on there. Do you have any individual thoughts about free agency? I had some underrated moves that I wanted to go over as well, but I wanted to give you a chance to kind of kick in if you had some guys or some teams you thought did really well.
Well, obviously we touched base Tampa,
Yeah.
San Francisco, and Denver. We thought have all done well. I'm kind of scratching my head. We mentioned the New York Giants, the amount of money and at the positions they're giving out. The Jacksonville Jaguars is surprising to me. They've spent a lot of money. I don't think they've signed good players. They've overpaid some guys to get them there. I don't like some of those contracts. The market's kind of going how you thought, other than I think the secondary. A lot of secondary players are still out there. I thought the corners would move a little faster. I thought the safety market would move a little faster. It hasn't.
Mm-hmm.
But you're seeing a lot of one-year deals, which is what we anticipated, with the cap going down and with everything going back up next year, and these teams not having a lot of cash on hand due to no fans last year for the majority of the season. This is kind of what we expected.
It's kind of like it's. I still at the. I mean, and when we get to the silver lining part of the show, we'll talk about what the Las Vegas Raiders doing. But I still, as far as my underrated moves, I think the number one underrated move was like Anthony Harris going for 1 year, $5 million to the Eagles. That kind of hurt my heart. I mean, that's all it took to get him to go to the Eagles. I mean,
you could have Jeff Heath. We'll take his money.
Jeez, my goodness. I mean, that's a great deal for the Eagles. I mean, and they want to franchise him next year. They can do that. How do you feel about? I'll save that move for the silver lining. Next one is Marvin Jones. I know the Las Vegas Raiders were in on him. Some other teams were as well. He chose to go to Jacksonville. I think of all the moves that they made, I like that one the most. I'm not sure how much money they paid him though. That's the problem. But I think he, along with Chalk and Labiskis Chenault, I finally got it right.
That's right.
He is kind of runs off that wide receiver core as far as that goes. And then let's see. I think a couple other moves. But what were you going to say?
Marvin Jones, 2 years, $14.5 million. So that's $7 million a year for that production is fine.
I mean, I would not have. I mean, so Nelson Aguilar's making more money than him?
Nelson Aguilar is probably making more money than everyone but Kenny Galladay on this free agent market as far as the wide receivers, which is surprising.
Good. That is amazing.
I don't mind John Brown at $3.5 million.
Fight on. So we text line. We got a bunch of questions, and we'll have to do a mailbag one day because I can't get to these all today. But one I thought was interesting was it's week 7. Does Jacoby Brissett have a chance to be the starting quarterback for the Miami Dolphins?
I'm going to say no.
No. So they're going to
I think they're all in on Tua.
Give him a whole season?
They have to. Unless they're 1-6 or 2-5.
Yeah. It has to. That's interesting because I just he was because they went, everybody went from loving Tua to now Tua is I wasn't a fan, so we'll have to see what happens as far as that goes. Trubisky, I think that's a great move by the Bills. Like if Josh Allen has to sit out for a couple of games because of injury. They don't want that, but I think having a guy who's played in a playoff game, a guy who has been a quarterback who's won some games, played on some good teams, that's a good move by the Bills.
Yeah, he brings obviously mobility too. Like he's a similar. They're not the same player by any stretch of the imagination, but they have a similar style. They're both very mobile. They're athletic. They can get outside. They have good arms. Now, Trubisky doesn't make good decisions and he turns the ball over way too much, but it's a similar enough style to where he could come in and fill in and they could run the same offense with Trubisky that they have for Allen. And I don't understand it from Trubisky's perspective. There's literally zero chance he's going to play this year, barring an injury to Allen. Yeah. And I don't know how he's going to build up his stock to go into the free agent market next year if he doesn't play at all and doesn't take any snaps. Mm-hmm. So it's a curious for me that he went there unless no other teams are interested. He should have gone somewhere where he had a chance to kind of try to rebuild himself and try to get back out on the market.
I would think that with his skill set, with his speed, arm strength, bootleg ability, that, I would have to have my agent call John Lynch. Yeah. I mean, especially with the fact that Josh Allen is likely to play 16 games, where if they go with Garoppolo, he's not likely to play 16 games at all.
Yeah.
Like
he's never find one of these teams with old quarterbacks, Pittsburgh, Washington. Could have maybe used a guy with his skill set. There's probably 10 teams in the league. I'm not saying he would have been their starter, but he had a much better chance of playing and showing some value.
Let's see here. Texans have a whole lot of running backs. Philip Lindsay is one of them. So I was surprised Denver just let him walk. I mean, he does have a lot of home run ability and can catch the football.
Yeah, he's a good running back. He made the Pro Bowl as a rookie. He has 2,000-yard seasons in his first 3 seasons in the NFL. He's explosive. So something had to have been going on behind the scenes there. Mm-hmm. I don't know how they could just let him walk and let him go. All they had to do was put a tender on him, and he's their property. And for them to just rescind it and let him walk, and he signs the next day. So I'd have to believe there's something we don't know about that we'll probably find out about in the next couple of months.
Kyle Rudolph, is he done?
Yeah, but he failed his physical. There's some foot issue there. He's probably close to the end.
Yeah, I mean that go. I think there are other options at tight end where I think the Giants could have possibly, went instead of going to Kyle Rudolph. I mean, they have some options in house too as well too. So surprised they made that move in particular as far as that goes. Let's see here.